Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TBYP or Tips to Boost Your Knowledge in Pharmacology. And here I'm again with you, here, Dr. Marwan. So, for today's tip is about the pharmacodynamic interaction curve representation. In the pharmacodynamic, we have the x-axis as the dose or the concentration of the drug, and better to be represented by the logarithmic value of the dose rather than by the linear. This is for a better representation, and the result will be in a sigmoid or S-shaped curve, as while the y-axis will be the percentage or the effect or the response. That's why it's called the dose response curve. So as we can see, in this curve, if we want to search for the efficacy, we will have to look at the x-axis final or ultimate value of the effect. And we can see that there is a gradual increase as we increase the dose or the concentration. There is a gradual increase of the response of the drug effect or response until it maximum level, reaches maximum level where all the receptors that are bound to the drug are expected to be saturated. So this is the first part of the of this tip. As you can see, as the efficacy goes down, then we are always dealing with the y-axis, of the dose response curve. On the other hand, if we are dealing with the potency of the drug, in the same dose response curve, the logarithmic, we call it graded dose response curve, we notice that for a drug that produces 50% of its Emax at low concentrations, this is considered as a high potency drug. So the relation is inverse between the potency and the concentration. And in potency, we have to look at how much is the dose that has been required to produce 50%, regardless of the Emax. While for those drugs that require very high concentrations to produce 50% of the Emax, then these drugs are termed as low potency agents. Now, the definition of the third part of this tip is about the therapeutic index. And the therapeutic index is defined as a ratio between the dose that produce lethality in 50% of the population or the animals, and divided by the effective plasma concentration that produces the effect in 50% of the population. So LD50 divided by ED50 is the therapeutic index. So we need to, in order to know the therapeutic index, we need two curves, not only one, two dose response curve. This is a quantile. This is termed as quantile dose response curve, from which we get the therapeutic index. And we can see that the first curve is related to the effective plasma concentration that produce effect, the desired effect, while the second curve represents the toxic effect, plasma concentration of the drug that is administered to that population under study. Of course, we use animals, in this case, experimental animals. So for high therapeutic index, you can notice that the difference between the toxic side effect curve and the effective curve is wide and broad. So that's why high therapeutic index reflects high or wide margin of safety. Wide margin of safety of the drug. While for drugs that have a very narrow space between the effective curve, or the curve that reflects the effective concentration of the drug, and the curve that reflects the toxic concentration of the drug, then here the therapeutic index is referred to as low, described as low, which means that the margin of safety also is narrow. So the wider the margin of safety, the more distant are the more distance is the between the curve that reflects the effective plasma concentration or desired plasma concentration and the curve that represents the toxic plasma concentration. So this was the tip regarding the pharmacodynamic potency terms and efficacy and the therapeutic index through graphical representation. Thank you so much, and see you again in another tip.